Hello, you're listening to or watching or both to the GoOrange for Muscular Dystrophy Tasmania podcast. I'm the charity's patron, Peter G. These podcasts promote the good work of Muscular Dystrophy Tasmania and the inspiring people determined to improve the lives of those with neuromuscular disorders, from research, therapies, volunteering, fundraising and more. Our special guest today, our first guest in our podcast series, is Dr Chantal Coles. She's a Senior Research Scientist at the Murdoch Children's Research Institute. Thanks for giving us your time, Chantal.
Thank you.
Or should I say, Dr Coles?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Now, I guess everybody that's watching this will think that your research involves muscular dystrophy, but the Murdoch Institute, I guess, is more than just that. Can you tell us a little bit about where you work?
Yeah, so we're based in Melbourne, and the Murdoch Children's is actually located at the Royal Children's Hospital here, and so we're on the research labs on the 4th and 5th floor of the hospital, and we do all types of paediatric research here. So from cancer to muscle diseases to cardiac, allergy, there's everything that the hospital caters for. We also do the research here. Yeah.
And how long have you been working at the Institute?
So I've been here since 2010. So I finished my PhD, and we were actually located at the University of Melbourne, and we had a Muscular Dystrophy Australia say we want to take the research lab up to the Children's Hospital. So my first postdoc after my PhD was up here, and I've been here ever since.
Are you from Melbourne?
Yes, I'm from Melbourne as well. Yes.
Okay, so virtually straight out of university to where you are now. That's pretty rare these days.
Yeah. Well, it's a fantastic place, and every time I walk in here, I feel, very inspired, and it's amazing work that's been done here. So
when you were studying at university, was muscular dystrophy always at the forefront of your mind, or did that sort of evolve as you got to understand where you were going to go with your career?
Yeah, so I've had quite a unique pathway to get here. I actually I was quite interested in veterinary science. I did an animal science degree, and I was actually I started off doing research in racehorses. And then, yes, that's interesting. But
isn't veterinary study even longer than human study to get your qualifications?
Oh, yeah, they're both quite extensive, definitely. But then my PhD ended up being in muscle, but it was actually a research program in beef cattle. But the interesting thing about that is my PhD project was very transferable to muscular dystrophy. And then when we moved up to the hospital, because we were at the veterinary school at the University of Melbourne, when we moved up here, the projects were very similar, and then we started working on muscular dystrophy and looking at the inflammation that's involved in the muscle. And my research is really about how cells talk to each other, and then when things go wrong, what happens there and how we can try and get them to talk back to each other and into a healthier state. So, I started off in agricultural research, I guess, and then, we moved up here, and I've been here ever since. The research is really cutting edge for biomed, and I really like that.
Is that really what attracted you? You thought this is almost virgin territory, and I've got somewhere here that I can really sink my teeth into and perhaps go where research hasn't gone before?
Yeah, that's right. In the veterinary world, the cutting edge research is just not there, but the expertise when you're in biomed is globally, we've got experts here that are globally recognised, and then the equipment that goes into biomedical research so that you can use the top-notch equipment is what attracted me as well. Yeah. And of course, finding therapies, there's no better reward than to work towards helping kids as well. So that's quite motivating.
I guess most of the people that are watching this podcast have some knowledge, even personal experience with muscular dystrophy. Can you just explain to perhaps the people that aren't aware of actually what this term means, what muscular dystrophy is in all its forms? I believe there's about 60 different variations that come under this banner.
Yeah, so muscular dystrophies, they're genetic muscle diseases. So what that means is that if someone has a genetic muscle disease, they've got a faulty gene, And that's how we class it and name the diseases. So, for example, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is what most people are familiar with, is a mutation in a protein called dystrophin. So, and then the limb girdles is another series or subset of those diseases, and there's about 30 different classes of those or subsets of limb girdle that have genetic faults. So each protein gets a different name, I guess. The disease gets a different name. So it's all about the genetic fault of a protein.
So the research that you're doing, is it sort of one size fits all for all forms of muscular dystrophy, or is Duchenne the one that you're really concentrating on? Is it applicable right across the board?
So we're focused at the moment on Duchenne and a muscular dystrophy called FSHD, which is a very long word, stands for facioscapular humeral muscular dystrophy. But the pipeline that we're setting up will be relevant to all of the muscular dystrophies. So there's two types of work that we're driving at the moment in the lab. So you may have heard of stem cells before. That's been quite big in the last 10 years and it's taken off. And then also I'm working on, and I'll go into the stem cell work, but I'm also working on finding immune therapies, because in the muscular dystrophies, some of them there's inflammation that doesn't get resolved, and then when there's these cycles of inflammation that happen, and then it doesn't slow down, so you end up getting scar tissue instead of muscle repair.
So, I'm lucky enough not to be a sufferer, but I played cricket at the weekend, and at 66 years of age, I'm finding that I'm stiff and sore for longer than I used to be. Am I right in thinking that, when we say we're stiff, we've damaged our muscles, little tiny tears in the muscle tissue, and that repairs itself, hopefully. But with sufferers of MD, that is not the case. Am I right in drawing that sort of analogy?
Yes, that's great. That's actually how I describe it. We go to the gym, or like what you said, you get those tiny muscle tears, and then you get the inflammation that come in, and they come and clean the damage, remove it. We call them like little vacuum cleaners. They'll come and repair the damage, and then they'll send signals to the muscle cells to start growing and repair. And what happens with muscular dystrophy is that doesn't get switched off, and you get these vicious cycles of inflammation. And then you get the scar tissue that gets replaced instead of the muscle.
Fibrosis, is that right?
Yeah, the fibrosis. So you're exactly right. That's exactly what we're trying to stop and slow down that process. And Duchenne patients are on steroids. There's some muscular dystrophy patients that are on steroids, so we know they're anti-inflammatories, and that does calm down the immune system. But we're actually looking for better targets, because we know that steroids can have side effects. So we're actually looking for anti-inflammatories that don't have those side effects.
So tell me about an average day for you. Are you going through the literature with a fine-tooth comb that already exists? Are you looking through a microscope in a lab? How hands-on is your work?
What actually attracted me to research is no day is the same. I mean, we might have some days that are the same, but yes, you're right. We're in the lab preparing our muscle biopsy sections for the microscope so that we can stain them for, like we were talking about, the immune cells. We are reviewing the literature always. We always have to be on top of what's happening in the world, so we're making sure that we know what everybody else is doing, and we're doing something novel. We're not repeating work. We're also working on big equipment in the lab, particularly for the immunology work or the immune work. We work with flow cytometers, so they're able to screen. We label them with cells. We label the immune cells with special markers, so we can work out which immune cells we're looking at. So we use big machines for that. And there's lots of other things that we do. We travel quite a lot to do conferences and meet with international collaborators. So it's quite diverse. And then sometimes we have to meet patients and then go around the country as well and talk to other clinicians.
I've heard biobank talked about in relation to your work. What the hell is that?
So we've recently set up a biobank, and this has been through, it's a multi-site biobank, so we've worked with the different states in Australia, the different hospitals. So what it is a place where we can store blood samples from patients, and also muscle biopsies that may have happened in the past that we can access. So why researchers need them is, so the work that I'm doing and investigating the immune system is using the blood from patients, so we can isolate the immune cells and then we can see which immune cells are dysregulated so that we can target them. And the other thing is we can use the blood to make the stem cells. So you may have heard stem cells, it's a bit of a hot thing at the moment.
Embryonic stem cells, of course, were quite controversial, say 10 years ago. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so the thing that's changed with the stem cell work, so embryonic stem cells are cells that can differentiate or grow into any cell type. So they can grow into a lung cell, a muscle cell with the right signal. So that's what happens when an embryo grows. It gets this right signals to actually make the embryo into different tissues. So for a long time we thought that once they turn into, say, a muscle cell or a cardiac cell, that they wouldn't be able to return back to its embryonic state. So 10 years ago, or 2012, there was 2 Japanese scientists that actually won a Nobel Prize for working out that if you add 4 growth factors to these embryonic stem cells, you can actually turn them back into their embryonic state. So if you have a muscle cell, you can turn it back into its embryonic state. So what we can do with the blood now is we take the blood, we can reprogram it back to its embryonic state, and then we can take it we give it different nutrients when they're growing, and we can turn them into muscle cells. So if we're using the
So you're growing muscle in what, a petri dish? What's happening?
Yeah,
there?
in a petri dish, and then they're from the patient. So we're able to study them with their genetic fault and work out how they can grow. And we're actually growing them into 3D little mini muscles now. That you can actually see, and they contract as well, like little muscles. So if we know we've got a faulty gene, we can study on how to correct that and what the problem is. So yeah, so we use the biobank for that, so we can study the immune system and then also grow those muscle cells from patients. And what that enables too, and where the research is going, is precision medicine. So if we find a drug, we're actually and we're using the patient's blood, we can actually work with drugs on that particular patient. So this is called precision medicine. And that's where it's not just muscle research.
Because, with muscular dystrophy, there's all the different types, but also sufferers tend to have different effects upon them. So you can actually target what is affecting this particular individual through their use of their own tissue.
Tissue, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and we've had some patients come in and we've taken their blood from part of the biobank, and they've come in and had a look at their own muscle cells growing. So,
wow, yeah. What's the reaction when they see that?
Yeah, well, they're kids, so I think the adults are probably more excited, but yeah, I don't think
the kids just take it as in their stride.
Yeah, but the adults is very exciting for parents, because we know this has a really big impact on not just the patients but the families as well. So to see that their child's being worked on in the lab is quite exciting. And it's not just this disease, it's for lots of diseases. We have a very big stem cell program here. So, yeah, it's an exciting time for science in the last 10 years. Technology, you've seen what happened with AI, it's just taking off. We're starting to introduce it now as well, working out how we use it properly and how it's safe to use. Our information is just not going out to the whole world. But also it's just fast-tracking what we do. So that's
because I guess we hear about breakthroughs in medical research every day. They get the headlines and then we don't tend to hear about it progressing for years and years. It's a long-term thing in a lot of regards. But would you say that we're making actually progress, fast progress? Have you personally had a eureka moment in the lab where you thought, here we are, we've taken another step forward?
This year I probably did, and we're working to see if our target will actually we can use a drug on it. But it's taken a long time, like you said, to get there. It's taken 10 years to build the team. We need the expertise. But yeah, there's definitely been that moment this year, but there's a lot of work to do.
Do you pat yourselves on the back when that happens? Yes, we're on the right track.
We do, but there's always more to do, so it's just a relief. Yep, tick it off the box, next stage now, yep.
So are we getting closer to, say, clinical trials with a particular drug or a series of drugs, a family of drugs?
Yeah, so my work's working on finding the immunotherapies, and what is good about that is that you've heard them in the cancer field, and they've been very successful in the cancer field also in the last 10 years. So we're going to use what they've done, and they've done a lot of the hard work. So yeah, we're just trying to prove, we've got a target now, and we're just trying to prove that it can be, with the right drug, we can actually, it will work in these patients. So we're excited, but there's always risks that it might not work, but we're very excited. Everything's going forward well.
Would you say it's in the field of making it easier to live with the disease, or is there a cure, which is what people would ultimately be looking for? Is that even your aim at this stage?
Our aim, and we talk to the patients, particularly for Duchenne, we talk to them, and they really want more muscle movement. So we want to improve their quality of life and just try and get there before we, say that we're
eradicate the whole thing.
Yeah, that's right. So because muscle's such a large organ, if you think about it, you've got to target the biggest organ in your body. So we're just focusing on, let's slow down the disease so they are not, in a wheelchair. That's our goal at the moment. And then hopefully we will get to the bigger aim of a cure. But yes, we're just focusing on, we just want to slow the disease down, give these patients a better quality of life and their families as well.
Is there any difference between the muscles, like the thigh muscles or arm muscles, skeletal, muscular research is really your speciality. If you can fix or improve movement in one muscle, can it be used right across the body? Is it specific?
So every muscular dystrophy, they do affect different muscles of the body, particularly some, for example, FSHD, the one that I mentioned before, we call it asymmetry, where the muscles get affected. One side can be more affected than the other, which makes it a complete mystery. Yeah, it's very...
Wow.
Yeah, whereas with the limb girdles, they're classed because they affect the limb muscles. But I think, well, we're hoping to target all of the muscles. But if we were to think of downstream, one of the treatments that we're talking about is those stem cells, and one day can we grow those muscles, stem cells in the lab, and can we transfer them to patients? That's a grand aim of this. We're not there yet, but can we? And how would we do that? Which muscle would we start with? Would we start with the arm so that the patients can use their arms better? But that's really how we engage with the clinicians here, the neurologists that we work with, and also the patients.
Do you ever see any patients with something new that you haven't seen before? How do we attack this? Or
yeah, because they're genetic muscle diseases, we know that there's lots of genes that can influence.
How many would you say? Have you put a number on it?
Oh, there's always something that...
In our genome, how many genes are there?
Oh, how many genes in the human genome? So there's genes that are silent as well. So you've got lots of genes that don't actually do anything as well. They can be switched on somehow? Or? Yeah, they get switched on and off. So one of our diseases, FSHD, what it actually is a gene. So in you and I that don't have FSHD, we have a gene that's silenced. So this gene is only expressed very early in the embryo, and then it switches off, and then it doesn't come back on again. So for these patients, it comes back on, it's re-expressed, and that's what causes the disease. But we don't actually know a lot, because sometimes we can't find this gene being switched on, because it kind of flashes explain it like a Christmas tree. It will just flash here and there.
Your Christmas lights that you haven't used for 364 days, and you switch it on and it works, and then a minute later it's not for some reason. There's one little globe that you've got to tinker with.
That's right, exactly. So trying to find where it's becoming problematic makes it very difficult. So yeah, this is a very hard genetic disease to work on.
Just how much does it go in families, MD? Is it if it affects one child, it doesn't necessarily affect every child, will it, from the same parents?
Yeah, so it depends where the genetic fault is. So, for example, for Duchenne, It's on the X chromosome. So you have an X and a Y chromosome. So, and if you have two X's, you're a female. If you have an X and a Y, you're a male. So what happens if you inherit just one X chromosome? You're going to get Duchenne because you don't have that extra X to fix that faulty gene, I guess. So that's why it's all depend on where the gene is. So that's why it's Duchenne muscular dystrophy is more. It can happen in girls, but it's mainly boys.
Yeah, that's right. Why males? Right, it's the X chromosome.
Yep. It's the X chromosome. Yes.
This is amazing stuff, really. Do you feel like you're at the cutting edge here, and that Australia is, leading the way in this research?
Yeah. So I do. It's taken a long time because I've had to retrain. I did my PhD in muscle research, and then I had to retrain in immunology as well. So it's taken a long time. I've had to upskill in the last 15 years, but we've set up a very strong team now. And because we work closely, because we're at the Children's Hospital, we work very closely with the neuromuscular clinic. So they're the neurologists that will treat the patients. So we've been very lucky to be involved with what we call a longitudinal study that the neurologist and Dr. Ian Woodcock and Katie DeBow, she's a physiotherapist here, they've set up, and that's for FSHD. So what they are doing is tracking the patients each year. So, and then what we're able to do is work out when, for example, they have their disease declines and progresses, and we're actually able to, for example, for my work out what immune cells are involved when they're actually having.
So it's not a sort of a linear progression with this disease. There are ups and downs. It's less severe at certain times, and back it comes again.
Yeah, this one's interesting for that. For Duchenne, it's very linear. It's and most patients will go down the same track, but this is a very interesting disease in that manner. But we do have, the kids are more severe than adults because it usually comes on, this disease, around 17. But these patients are more severe, so we're trying to figure out why they're more severe, but then track them. But this cohort is globally leading. This is a niche field as well. It's a rare disease. Most of these diseases, the field is quite niche, so we build the global collaborators. But
is that a problem that it is, like in Tasmania, for example, we believe about 1,000 sufferers of MD in one form or another. If it was more common, would there be more money being thrown at it? Would there be more institutes like yours around the world?
Well, you see what you've seen, and I think a lot of the patients are quite silent too, and they don't. It's not. You've seen what happened with motor neuron and Neil Danaher. Had this very life in the football field, and then he was diagnosed later. So everyone knew who he was, so that people could connect with him and see and empathise with him. So that's why it's taken off. Whereas I think this, because families and kids are diagnosed earlier, it doesn't have that same impact on the community. So, yeah, it does need. I think so. It does need to. It's devastating. Some of these diseases are really devastating, just as much as motor neuron. So, and impacting kids, of course.
But as you've said, that side of it, that you're helping children, is a real motivator for you and your fellow researchers.
It definitely is. Helping kids and just walking through the hospital, regardless of what their disease is. Yeah, it's inspiring.
Are you a parent?
Yes, I'm a parent. I've got an 8-year-old daughter.
Does she know what Mum does? Does she appreciate what you do every day when you head off to work?
Our days are sometimes 7 days a week. So she's been in the lab with me on the weekends. Is
she going to follow in Mum's footsteps?
I told her she needs to become a surgeon.
Really?
Yeah, but she said, no, Mum, I'm just going to
just cut it off or sew it up,
I said, no, she's decided she's going to be an inventor. So I'm like, oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah. So she's been exposed to this, and she knows I'm trying to fix sick kids.
And, like all parents, you'd do anything you possibly could to help her, no doubt, if she was in any sort of trouble. And there'll be parents watching this that think, wow, I'd like to get my child involved in, say, in one of your clinical trials. Can people volunteer, put their loved one forward in that way?
If anyone is interested in our research, I would say, get in contact with Muscular Dystrophy Tasmania, they can connect up with us. That's an opportunity for them to have a discussion with our coordinators about being part of the biobank. It's just a blood sample as well. And what that also helps is we've got a registry here at the hospital as well. So that registry, if you're not on it, we encourage you to go on it, because then all your information goes in, so that if a clinical trial does come on, you're on that registry as well. So yeah, there's the biobank if you want to be involved in research and part of the studies. And of course that will, when we go down the path of clinical trials and get to that stage, you'll be on the radar as well. So,
Dr. Coles, to wind up, could you look into your crystal ball and think, how far down the track will it be when this disease is something from the past, that we've unlocked all the secrets, and that someone who is genetically disposed to getting it, we can make sure that they don't?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is that even possible, do you think, at this stage, or is it going to be about alleviating the symptoms and making life just easier to live?
Yeah, I think with the advances in technology, in the next 20, 30 years, we're going to be in a different world. I honestly believe that. We've just got to try and keep up with the pace of it all. But we need the community engagement as well. And what you're doing is fantastic, because it's getting the work out there. We need communities, even if you're not a family friend or a patient, just somebody, everybody, just getting everybody involved so that we can push towards these therapies, definitely. But we think we are very confident that with what we've set up now, that we can get some therapies in that will really slow down these diseases.
Well, thank you, Dr. Coles. Your positivity, I think, is positively inspiring, and we'll let you take off your civvies and get your lab coat back on. Is it back into the business this afternoon?
Yes, definitely. Yep, of course. Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. And please get in contact if anyone wants to be part of our research, or if you're in Melbourne and you want to come and have a tour around the lab or the hospital, please, get in contact.
Just head up to the Royal Children's.
Yep.
Dr. Chantal Coles, thank you so much for being part of our GoOrange for Muscular Dystrophy podcast today. Thank you again.
Thank you.
You've been tuned in to the GoOrange for Muscular Dystrophy Tasmania podcast. To find out more, go to musculardystrophytasmania, all one word, .com.au, or find us on the socials. There's links in the show notes. Muscular Dystrophy Tasmania is supported by Co-op Toyota, Core Comms and Heartwood Whisky.